Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to Overwatch Central. So role queue is an idea that the community have been throwing around quite a lot for a good few months now. The popularity of the idea seems to have come to a very high peak, and I even think that people like Jeff Kaplan would consider and use the idea at this point. However, I want to try and play devil's advocate with this kind of video and talk about why I feel that role queue wouldn't necessarily be the best idea in the world. I do genuinely feel it's a band-aid fix, and I do feel it's going to be very exploitable. How that may be, we will go over in a second. Just before that, I do want to get everybody on the same page to what constitutes as being a role queue in my eyes, because there are different ways that you can use a similar sort of system that would be a hell of a lot better. So much better, in fact. So the idea comes from the idea of queuing as a tank, as a DPS or a support. Not really going any more specific from that, because matchmaking that would be incredibly difficult to do. It's an idea with immense good intentions surrounding it. It would solve a lot of the matchmaking issues that we find ourselves in. The idea that you have 4 supports on one side, 2 mercy mains on the same side, for example, even though that's not really going to be the case anymore, but then maybe 3 tanks on one side. Actually, to be fair, having 3 tanks would be a good idea, considering that seems to be the meta coming up at least, so not so bad. But you get the idea that some teams could be really unbalanced from the get-go, and I guess Blizzard didn't expect people to main, in inverted commas, heroes as much as they do. By main inverted commas, I essentially mean there's a lot of one-tricks in the game, to be fair, but that's just one thing to go over. But having a role queue would streamline the experience. It would help players specialize and prioritize certain heroes and certain roles. I mean, me and Miska both play tanks, for example. Pretty much all of the tanks between us. So having a system like this would be incredibly good for us. But again, I still don't feel it's going to be the best system in the world. It would just streamline, make the games a little bit more competitive, hopefully, and just make sure that you have a general 2-2-2 setup. But that kind of goes into the first problem that I have with the system. If you're setting it up so you have people queuing as tanks, as DPS, as supports, then there are going to be those situations where what deems an inverted commas balanced lineup? Is it 2-2-2? Is it going to be triple tank or quad tank with this new potential meta coming up? Is it 3 DPS? Is it 6 supports? Who knows? Who decides what is meta and who isn't? And that's exactly the reason why one tricks don't get banned. Because where do you draw the line between a hero being a problematic one trick or one that's playing the meta all of the time? You have to make certain rules for different heroes, and that rulebook changes every single day, and most especially after every single patch. So how would that system work in itself? And also, is it going to be an actual forced system? If you queue as a support and then decide, actually, I'm going to go Torbjorn, is that a bannable offense? Is that going to get you reported? That already just ruins the whole system if somebody queues as one role and decides to go as another. But that also goes into another thing. What if you queue as a support pick Symmetra on attack? Most people know that that's not the optimal thing to do, but they're still picking support. That's what the role system is there for. They're doing exactly what they're meant to. Could you report somebody for that? Probably not. And that's the biggest, most obvious problem that we are going to see happen if this system was implemented. I feel my biggest issue and biggest gripe with it is that it's putting unnecessary stuff into the game. More hurdles, in the same sense that you have of people suggesting the idea of people to pay to play competitive, just to sort of cut down on people using throwaway accounts, having smurfs, all that jazz. I do like the idea of raising the level cap. At the moment it's level 25 before you can actually have an account that can go into competitive. I would boot that up all the way to 50 or even higher, just to sort of de-incentivize the idea of making another account, leveling it up all the way to 25 and then starting to level up from there. Let me know what you think of that. Actually, I think that'd be a really good idea, but there is a way to make the system a lot more popular, and it is kind of already in the game. What I mean by that is the idea of having a preferer role instead of a hard set role queue. Instead of it being so hard set, for example, I'm just going to play tank, I'm not going to play support DPS, I'm going to queue up as tank and not play anything else. Just having something that you can just adjust in game in the options. I would prefer to play a tank that you can alter and change before you go into a match, very similar to how the World of Warcraft looking for group system works there. You can choose stuff prior to queuing. Then you have a system that's going to, I guess, push you into games with other players without it being so hard set and having those rules in place that can be easily exploited and be ruined off the bat. If you queue preferring to be a tank but you have to play support for some other reason, then that's perfectly fine, because the matchmaker's going to do its best. But after a certain amount of time, say for example you're in like GM, the queues are already really long because of finding balanced games, it will throw you into a game and go, look, we tried to give you a support role but there just isn't any right at this point. I I do feel that everything that the community wants from a role queue can be satisfied with more of a softer role queue as opposed to a hard set one. And we've seen this already similarly in the Winter Wonderland game mode with the Hunter Yeti thing with Winston and May. You could queue as Winston, but if it couldn't find you a game, it'd put you as May and go, we tried, okay? We tried to get you Winston, but you got May. But overall, I do feel adding a hard set role queue just wouldn't be very healthy for the game. I think it would cause more toxicity problems in ranked than there is already, and it's just going to ask more questions and answer them. But I am really curious to hear what the general community feel. Like, for example, I know a lot of people disagree with us on Mercy stuff, but around this, I want to hear if people agree or disagree. Put your arguments and ideas down in the comments below. I'll do my best to read as many responses as possible, and may even pin some really good ideas if you have them in the comments below. Like, my mind isn't made up on this, but this is the first thing that springs to mind when people talk about a role queue. So I wanted to make a video on it, give my opinion, but also hear yours as well. See if you could change my mind. Try and convince me that role queue, a hard set role queue, would be a good idea. But until next time, take care. We'll see you then.